Hey guys, I'm Learning TFT, back with another video where I'm going to share my research process with you so that we can all learn more effectively together. In this video, I'm going to go into some initial impressions on 1420 and what's especially strong right now. There's a reroll comp that I believe is broken and underplayed and will likely be B-patched. So I'll start with Mort Dog's tweet. He made this post yesterday. And keep in mind that I'm making this video at 9 a.m. Pacific time on the day of the patch release. So odds are that there will be a B patch in the next day or so. And then this comp may or may not be as effective, though it really depends how they decide to nerf what's broken right now. So Mortdog said, from testing on PBE this weekend, I'm concerned of at least one thing that might be too strong. Plan right now is to ship the A patch as is, monitor for the first 12 hours, and act quickly if something needs to be done. So the initial impression on Twitter is Kime mentioned that there's only one LMAO broken tier, which is Soraka reroll, but if we look at the stats, it actually doesn't, it could be either Soraka or Seraphine. Reimplosion had a breakdown of just looking at how broken Mage is right now. Might wait until B-patch to play. Lil Kahuna did a breakdown of between 1419 and 1420. Mage, Crest, and Crown jumped and spiked, like basically more than double the win rate. And if we look at the meta trends right now, Soraka has, as an individual unit, the highest bump, and then we have Seraphine, and then these pretty much all mages, and a lot of the meta comps have fallen off. Callista's seems like might be unplayable. Gwen fell off, so a lot of forecasts have fallen off, whereas Mage specifically has a huge spike. You can look at 7 Mage here, 3.2 augments, just all the Mage augments went up. So yeah, right now Mage seems to be the way to go. And if we look at Mage specifically, of course we're familiar with Veigar and Vex. If you 3-star them, 3.33. But the challenge is if everyone's jumping onto Vex and Veigar, there's only 18 3 costs in the pool. So if you're contested, it's really hard to hit. Whereas the 1 cost, Seraphine here, 3.8. and Soraka 3.75. You know, you compare that 3-star placement with Wukong. Like Seraphine 3 averages the same as Wukong 3, which is kind of ridiculous. And that just speaks to how strong Mage is right now. But more importantly, 1-cost Mage reroll, which we haven't really seen much of in this set, is likely going to be much more consistent in order for you to hit, because you can play it contested, and it seems to be underplayed right now. And I want to talk about a little bit why. So Mage got a big buff, but I want to talk about specifically this 1-cost reroll with Seraphine, Soraka, Galio. Seraphine's spell goes through a bunch of units and falls off by 35% from last patch to now 30%, so she deals more damage to their backline. And Galio, I suspect this is actually the biggest reason this 1-cost reroll is more effective outside of just the overall Mage buffs, which is at 3 stars, his flat damage reduction goes from 30 to 40, and this scales off of AP. So that's an additional 10% flat damage reduction, and this scales off AP. So Spark and Crown Guard, and I think even Titans in the stats are really good on Galio. So let's take a look at Meta TFT. So this is, again, very small sample size of data. I'm filtering by GM+. In fact, maybe for this analysis, we should just add in Master just to have a little bit more data. Yeah, so if you add in Master, this is the highest win rate comp in the game right now, with a much lower pick rate than your Veigar and Vex reroll. 20% win rate, very low pick rate right now, extremely high top 4 rate, just because it's 1-cost reroll is a lot more consistent and easier to hit. So with one cross reroll, you're going to roll a lot level 5. You could consider rolling again at 7 and 8. And I think part of the reason that there's so much more rolling at each level, and we'll actually take a look at a VOD from last patch. There aren't very many games with this comp, but there's consistently rolling here because part of the way that you cap, I don't know if that's shown in the stats here, part of the way that you can cap this board is playing around Arcana with Kench and Xerath. At least that's the way that the VOD player that will go into played it. But the conditions for this, I suspect it's playable without the best conditions, but the best augment is learning to spell, and we'll take a look at that from last patch. Learning to spell is particularly good. You want extra rods. High voltage is good. Combat caster, Mage Crown, of course, like has the best prismatic stats, I believe, right now. Prismatic Ticket is back with this. So basically, you could play Reroll again with this. As far as frequency goes, you just have your standard mage stuff, even spell blades. But learning to spell is like insanely broken, 2.6. And as far as itemization goes, it's actually interchangeable between Soraka, at least according to the stats, Soraka and Seraphine. If you look at the 3-star rate, 3.5 versus 3.55 in terms of average placement, if you use 3-star Seraphine versus Soraka. And with 3 items, Seraphine's 3.2, 3.25, so about the same in terms of itemization there. And you're going to be 3-starring your Galio, and Galio is going to be your main tank. So usually you want to do like a stone plate, and then rod items are very good because, again, this damage reduction scales with AP. And what else? In terms of portals, Treasure Golems is always good with 1-cost reroll, since you're going to hit really strong units earlier in the game and you won't have that many items for them. So Treasure Golems just boosts the strength of all your 3-stars. Tactician's Crown lets you get more mages in earlier, so you can hit the 7 mage breakpoint. And then extra items, again with 1-cost reroll, same reason for Treasure Golems, will let you itemize your 3-stars earlier, which will help you stabilize once you hit a lot quicker. So yeah, that's kind of the foundation of what seems to be the most broken comp in the game right now. This will probably be nerfed, and we can jump into a VOD review. If you're not familiar with Meta TFT's VOD library, you just go to Tools, VOD Library, and you can search any unit and filter recent games by top streamers. And you can see that there aren't really any games of this, at least in this library. This one right here is the one we'll go over by AKA Wonder. And you can see it's Learning to Spell, Mage Crown, Combat Caster, which are perfect augments. Keep in mind that this was, I believe this was on the 14-19. So this is a first place off of a very not meta comp, and that still did well in the ideal conditions. So I suspect that even in the not ideal conditions, this comp should still be strong right now. So we'll dive into this game.
Literalmente os habéis quedado.
We'll turn off the sound. Apologies for the poor resolution. In fact, I'm not going to go over every decision like I have in some VOD reviews, because I don't know how good AKA Wonder is from just a fundamental standpoint. But more importantly, what I want to examine is how he goes about playing this comp. What allowed him to hit escape velocity in terms of doing well, and just seeing how the units play out in the fights when he hits. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. So one thing you'll notice is that he has already hit a Seraphine 2, has a rod. So you want rods and tiers with this. So you need to hit your early Seraphine Sorakas, and Ideally, you have extra items with the portal. And of course, he hits Learning to Spell here, which is the best augment for this comp by a lot. And this is also gold subscription, so he gets more gold to be able to hit his units. And so early, the ideal early board is actually, let's pull it up. Seraphine, Soraka, Galio, Rumble, because it gives you 3 Mage, 2 Vanguard, and 2 Sugar. And then you can transition that on level 5 to add another Mage. Though this level 5 board is way more stable if you have a Mage emblem to put on Rumble, because that gives you 5 Mage. Or you could just take out Rumble and put in like a Vagar to get 5 Mage. But that's kind of what you're thinking on level 5, since with 1 cost reroll, you want to roll on mostly on 5. And so being stable on 5 with a Mage emblem makes a huge difference. Alright, so we're going to jump ahead. I'm going to jump to like 3-1. So we see we have our core level 4 board. He's rolling, hyper rolling, or rolling down to around 30 or 40 here to just get more access to his 1 cost. He's a lot closer to his Seraphine 3 than he is to his Soraka 3, so most likely his items are going to go on Seraphine. He does buy Shivanate just to stabilize a little bit more. And to kill units, because with Learning to Spell, you just want to kill more units early. So with Learning to Spell, and of course you see he has Mage Crown here. With Learning to Spell, you don't want to sack early. You want to kill as many units as possible. So you do need to have some upgrades. This is not a play from behind type of comp. Though at lower elos, perhaps you can. And he slams JG here since he's going to get a lot more AP from Learning to Spell. And then from here, he's just going to slow roll. So we're going to jump ahead to, let's just say, where is he? 3-2. So let's see how he's doing on 3-5. So at level 5 with the Mage emblem, you can see this has been a very stable board on stage 3. He's won every single round so far on stage 3. And he's just slow rolling above 50. And this is, again, in 14-19, before all the buffs to Seraphine, Galio, to Mage as a vertical. And he's looking for, so he's close to this Seraphine 3, so at this point he's just rolling for it. And he stops at 30. So usually with 1 cost reroll, you want to try to hit between somewhere around 3-5 if you're high rolling, or earlier, or 4-1 at the latest, since at 4-2 all the 4 cost level 8 comps are going to spike, so you really need to stabilize. And especially with Learning to Spell, you want to hit earlier ideally so that you can keep killing units and keep scaling. So I'm going to skip ahead. So we'll see he's going to do a big roll down here on 4-1. So he hits the Seraphine. And here you can see that he has a spatula, which if you reforge turns into a frying pan. And with the frying pan and a rod, I believe, you can make another Mage emblem. So he has really good conditions this game. Continuing to scale off Learning to Spell. And close to a Galio 3 and a Soraka 3. And with the last augment, see what he gets. Little Buddy's Combat Caster. Combat Caster is really good because mages cast twice, and so Combat Caster gets more value from those shields. It's actually slightly better on the Vagar Vex reroll version because Vagar has a lower mana pool, but it's still quite good just in general for mages. Alright, so we're going to skip ahead. So he's almost at Galio 3, which he's rolling for. Hits, and then from here it looks like he's 1 Soraka off, and he can just start leveling. He's on a 7 streak, which looks great, and I'm just going to skip ahead 4-3. I'm going to jump to 5-1. Alright, so he needs to finish off items for his Galio. And he moved his items over to Soraka, which Soraka, if you have a stone plate with a Galio 3, her spell hits adjacent enemies and heals. So Soraka, if you have this specific setup, perhaps items on Soraka is better. Though I believe Seraphine should, have a higher DPS, especially if you have some type of anti-heal. But it also likely depends on what type of opponent you're facing. Like if Seraphine can snipe like a backline quickly and take it out, it might be better. But against like warriors, where Seraphine kind of does like splash damage, Seraphine might be, or Soraka might be better. All right, so from here it looks like he's hit his 7 mages. He at some point, he's on 5-3. I'm gonna skip ahead again. So at 5-6, he's put in Tom Kench and Bard and took out the Rumble. Added in Zillion for Chrono with his Vex. And on 9, he would want to add in Xerath, and he's been buying a lot of charms since whenever you do reroll, you just get access to a lot more charms than other players. And so the Ultra Cap Out, which is especially true for Vhagar because Vhagar scales off of the number of charms you've bought, which eventually you want to add in Xerath, especially if you've been playing Vhagar. But even with this reroll, you probably bought a bunch of charms, and so Xerath can be a really good cap option once you find your TK. So from here, this looks like such an easy game. He's at 60 HP. The opponents are kind of running out of steam. He's facing, this looks like a super capped board. Like this is a Rakan 2, Morgana 2, Diana 2, and both the warriors were 2 stars as well, with lots of artifacts. And just look how strong this board is. It barely wins. Again, this is 14-19, pre-nerf. So you can just see how strong learning to spell is with these 1 costs. Like, the stats for learning to spell actually do better with the 1 cost mages than with Vex and Vhagar. I suspect because you are far less likely to have Vhagar at 2-1, so in stage 2. And Vhagar is less likely to be able to kill units as a Vhagar 1 compared to like a Soraka 2 and a Seraphine 2. So you're able to scale a lot more. And so he had a double kill here and took out both those players. He's extremely surprised and just mic drops. And then Reek says, "How is this mage so strong?" So I hope you enjoyed this video. Give this comp a try. It's something that will probably be nerfed very soon. So I don't know how long this will be good for. It also depends how Riot decides to nerf. They could just nerf the high-end mages, in which case the low-end 1-cost mages could still be extremely strong. So thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.